고요. 저희 이제 시작 주전장 준 감독과의 대화를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 반갑습니다. 이 단체 소개라던가 이런 부분에 대해서는 어, 우리 조정의미님께서 간단하게 이제 설명을 해주시도록 하겠습니다.
Okay.
이메일로 한번 설명드렸는데 저희 단체는 남북 철도 교류, 그리고 평화 교육, 문화 사업 등 하는 단체고요. 시민 단체고 거기서 이제 매달 한 편의 영화를 선정해서 시민들과 같이 보는 상영회를 진행하는데 8월 달 상영작으로 주전장을 선택해서 이렇게 감독과 대화를 나누고 있습니다.
반갑습니다. 저는 희망래일에서 하는 레일하제시네마에서 영화를 함께 준비하고 있는 박인희라고 합니다. 네, 어, 저희가 매달 영화를 하는데 6월 달에는 동아시아 반일 무장 전선이라고 하는 네, 영화를 일본과 관련된 영화를 했었고요. 한국 사회의 많은 문제가 일본과 뗄래야 뗄 수 없는 일들이 많아서 저희가 그런 영화들을 좀 주목하면서 음, 제국주의, 또 뭐 분단, 평화 이런 영화들을 좀 노동 이런 영화들을 좀 중점적으로 다루면서 영화를 진행하고 있습니다. 그래서 이렇게 주전장 미키 데자키 감독님과 어, 의미 있는 주전장 영화를 다루게 되어서 너무 또 뜻깊은 시간입니다. 네. 첫 번째 질문 드리겠습니다. 어, 첫 영화를 그것도 장편 다큐멘터리로 만들기가 쉽지는 않으셨을 텐데 네, 처음 시작하게 된 동기 그리고 또 어려웠던 점은 또 무엇이었을지 그럼에도 불구하고 그것을 이끌어 나가게 했던 원동력은 무엇이었는지를 영어로 말씀하셔도 좋고 일본어로 말씀하셔도 좋겠습니다.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I before I made the film and before I went to graduate school in Tokyo, where I made the film, I was a monk in Thailand, Buddhist monk, and I really cared about inner and outer peace. And then I stopped being a monk and then went to graduate school in Tokyo. And I really wanted to study peace studies, and because I wanted to, help the world create more peace. And I have friends in Korea and Japan, and I know that they can be friends, but when they talk about historical issues, they often fight, right? And this is mainly because I think the information that Japanese people have and the information that Korean people have is kind of different based on the media that they consume. So I saw that the comfort women issue was probably one of the most controversial issues between the two countries. And I thought maybe if I make a film that people in both countries watch, they can have a kind of a foundation of knowledge from where they can have better discussions, right? So if both of the people, Japanese and Korean people, have different kind of knowledge, then they sort of talk past each other instead of having kind of an understanding of where they're coming from and what information they have, right? So, and also, I think as a graduate student, it was just a very interesting topic. It involves human rights, women's rights, media, history, and politics. And yeah, so it was just one of these really interesting topics to talk about or cover in a film. As far as difficulties goes, because it was my first film, there was so many difficulties. Of course, funding, money is a huge difficulty. Even though it's much easier to make films these days because cameras are cheaper and you can use computer software at home. You still need a lot of money for things like, hiring people to help you, or hiring a lawyer, or, just little things, traveling and such like that. So funding is a big thing. Also, as a film director, I didn't realize how much making a film and being a director is really about managing a team of people, right? So that was a challenge for me to learn how to manage people and things like that. And then also, there's just constant doubting myself and a sort of fear of getting it wrong, meaning like not knowing if my film will just not, if I will show the film and people will say, oh, you don't understand this issue at all. So there was that fear. But as I, did more research and interviewed more people, and talked to friends, like Kang, who's on the call right now, or the Zoom call, I started to gain more confidence in my understanding of the issue and position, and that's what helped me sort of feel like I can maybe contribute something to the issue.
네, 마음속에서 평화를 이렇게 생각하시면서, 진정한 평화나 우리 내면의, 그리고 내 주변의 평화가 어떻게 연결될까라는 호기심이 감독님을 또 이렇게 계속 나아가게 하지 않았을까, 이런 생각이 좀 듭니다. 그런 의미에서 주전장을 만들었던 시기와 현재 일본 사회 분위기가 혹시 차이가 있는지, 그리고 또 작품 상영 이후 램지어 교수의 역사 왜곡 논문 논란이 있었던 걸로 압니다. 그에 따른 일본 사회 또 변화도 있었는지 궁금합니다.
Yeah, so it's a little difficult because, Japan it's a small country, but it's big. So it's hard to, talk about everybody. But yeah, what I've noticed, at least on like Twitter, is that I see less comfort women revisionist tweets, which is good. Of course, there are still people out there tweeting about it, but I don't see it as much. But I would say that generally speaking, Japanese people still feel like, the former comfort women are lying. This is a mainstream sort of position, I think, that Japanese people have taken. I think, and it's because mostly that the major news organizations, like Yahoo News and even TV, I think, subtly sort of tells Japanese people to think this way, right? It seems like it. It seems like it a little bit. I mean, I haven't measured it, but from what I've seen on Twitter, I don't get as many attacks for the issue. And I think also, I often see if somebody talks about the comfort women issue, like, a politician or somebody, sometimes I'll see tweets that say, oh, why don't you watch Shusenjo, and you'll understand more, kind of thing, right? So that's good to see. But, Twitter is not all of Japan,
Right.
It's a big part of Japan, but it's not all of it. So yeah, the film was considered a hit documentary film, but the audience for documentary films in Japan is pretty small compared to all of Japan still. And generally speaking, they're older people. right? But the nice thing was that I heard that many university students saw my film, Shusanjo, and among those students, excuse me, many of them said that they were really surprised by what they saw because they didn't really know much about the comfort women issue, and they didn't really know what the Abe government was doing. So this was a big surprise. Um, and, as you might know, my film got sued. And being sued, I think they were trying to stop people from watching the film. And I think they realized that, if young people see the film, they will maybe not support the mainstream idea that comfort women are lying. So, I think they are a bit afraid of showing my film or talking about my film in the mainstream sort of, news organizations and stuff like that. So, for instance, my film has never been shown or talked about really on a major Japanese TV channel, right? So in Korea, it was shown in many TV channels and talked about, but in Japan, it's almost zero, right? So yeah, that's a big difference. So to have a big change in Japan, I think, my film would need to be shown in more universities or even high schools, possibly talked about on major, TV news. But yeah, it didn't get to that point. But we'll see. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Oh, so one thing I've noticed, at least recently, is that the younger generation in Japan is slightly more interested in politics, I think. One thing that I was really happy about uh, that I heard from students was that, after watching my film, not only were they more interested in the comfort women issue, but they were interested in politics in general more. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in Japan, most young people don't really think about politics, don't care about politics, compared to Korea, of course. But yeah, so it's nice to hear that young Japanese people are becoming a little more involved. I've seen also like on Instagram where student organizations have created groups to educate people on the comfort women issue and other political issues. So that's fairly new and that's kind of interesting. But compared to Korea, Japan changes at a very, very, very slow pace. So, but these are really positive steps in the right direction, I think.
일본이 천천히 바뀐다고 했는데 한국은 굉장히 빠르게 수정주의적 역사관이 퍼지고 있다고 말씀해 주세요.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super interesting, actually. I mean, I never would have expected that, but yeah, I was really surprised when I went back to Korea recently, and in Seoul, the statue was surrounded by so many barricades, right? And you know, there were maybe three counter comfort women groups there, right? So when you and I, Kong, went there in maybe 2016 or 17, it was just one big, comfort women supporting group there. But now, yeah, to see these counter comfort women groups was just so bizarre to me.
최근 사도광산의 문화유산 등록 문제에 있어서 한일 양국 정부의 협력이라던가 또 독일에서 평화소녀상을 철거하는 등에서 일본 정부가 강력한 압력을 가하는 등 국제사회 내 일본 정부 입장이 굉장히 좀 두드러지게 보입니다. 어,
네.
네네. 그래서 혹시 최근 일본 회의 등 일본 사회 내 변화를 아까 말씀해 주신 것 같아서요. 일본 회의 등 일본 사회 내 변화와 함께 일본의 미국과 혹은 여타 국제사회 포섭이 잘 되고 있는 것 같아서요. 어떤 방식으로 이루어지고 있는지 혹시 아시는 게 있다면 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yeah. So anyway, let me just, there's a lot in there. So let me
Yeah.
try to touch on some of the stuff. So as far as the pressure on Berlin to remove the statue, that has been sort of a policy since Prime Minister Abe. And that hasn't really changed with Kishida at all, I think. The Japanese government doesn't like those statues, even though they said they apologized. So if you apologize, then you're acknowledging the history, and then you should allow these statues to be in existence, but they're against it, right? So yeah, it's a policy from Prime Minister Abe. And in the same way, the Japanese government has been against my film. So it's no secret that when I was traveling with my film to many countries in Europe and in the US, the Japanese consulate, not all of them, but a number of them, contacted universities and said, you know, we would like you to not show this film, right? And they made many excuses or reasons why they shouldn't show the film. Luckily, all the universities showed the film, but yeah, even they went as far as in France, Lyon, the city of Lyon, the consulate there wrote an official letter saying that they would, hope that the university doesn't show my film. And recently, actually, I have a friend who worked at a Japanese consulate in the United States, and he told me that his office had a meeting about my film, saying that if Mickey comes to our area to show the film, we have to stop the film from being shown somehow, right? So, yeah, this is a policy that the Japanese government has, and I don't think that's changed since Prime Minister Abe. And it doesn't seem like it's going to change with Prime Minister Kishida. As far as the strategy to earn support from the US and other countries, I think Japan gives a lot of money. I mean, it's not just Japan. Many countries do this, but Japan gives money through foundations, and they do lobbying. Specifically in the US, they sponsor many academic foundations and chairs at the university. So there are many university professors who are sort of sponsored by a Japanese organization, and they get money from them and support from them. So through that, they're able to sort of get support from Americans in the United States. And right now I'm in Thailand, and in Thailand, Thai people really love Japan, and I think part of that is because Japanese organizations give a lot of money to different projects here in Thailand, and yeah, so yeah, they do that kind of thing to gain support. As far as Nippon Kaigi, Nippon Kaigi in general has never been very open about what they do. They're fairly quiet. They sponsor, small events and things like that, but I think most of what they do is behind the scenes. It's a network of influential people, and yeah, I don't. They're not trying to announce what they do, right? Um, so yeah. Anyway,
작품의 전체적인 구성과 음향의 사용이 굉장히 인상적이었거든요. 그래서 이 작품을 봤을 때 가장 기억에 남는 건 이제 음악을 통한 이런 장면 전환이라던가 주제 전달이었던데요. 위안부라는 주제가 이러한 부분에 영향을 미쳤을지, 혹은 영향을 미쳤다면 어떤 부분에선 그런 것들이 혹시 있었을지 궁금합니다.
so I think maybe compared to Korean directors, for me, because I lived in Japan at the time, the comfort women issue was like a sort of battle of history and knowledge, right? Maybe in Korea at that time, or before, most Korean directors, just think, oh, it's a fact. The women were used as sex slaves, so that's why they make the film in that way. But for me, I wasn't so sure. It was sort of a battle that was going on in my mind. I wasn't sure, are the right wingers right? Are the left wing, the comfort women supporting people right? So yeah, it's the film structure is sort of a reflection of this battle that was going on in my mind. And I think that happens also in the minds of many Japanese people who are sort of confused about this. So that's why it's sort of a, point by point debate kind of structure of a film. As far as music goes, the main sort of criteria for me was to keep people awake. I know that it's a lot of talking. It's 2 hours of talking, so I wanted to keep people interested and keep people or actually also to signify when an important point was being made. Yeah, so and this may come from the fact that I used to be a teacher, and I know how easy it is for students to fall asleep. So I wanted to, figure out a way to keep people kind of energized through a 2 hour talking film. Yeah, well, as far as the drumming goes, I chose that kind of music because, yeah, I love drumming, so I wanted people to kind of feel this sort of, yeah, heightened sort of energy when they're watching the film. But the main sort of goal was to keep people, awake and interested and paying attention.
Yes, we are
설명할
like
때는 그렇게 컴포트 워먼이라는 말보다는 이제 성노예라는 표현을 직관적 표현을 더 쓰시는 것 같은데, 이렇게 얘기를 하셨을 때 그런 것들에 대한 정의나 생각을 좀 궁금해서 여쭤보겠습니다.
So yeah, I guess for me, I just use the term comfort women because it's kind of more, I guess, specific to this issue, or like it's if I talk to somebody who, doesn't know about this issue that much, if I say sex slave, I'm like, oh, okay, this is the issue between, Japan and Korea and other Asian countries and stuff like that. So I think that's why I use the term comfort women. It's just more to specify this particular, sex slave issue. Of course, my position is that they were sex slaves, but yeah, I think maybe in Korea, when you refer to sex slaves, people already know it's about the comfort woman issue. Do you get what I'm saying?
네, 이제 마지막 질문인데요. 긴 시간 감사합니다. 마지막으로 네, 이제 공식적인 질문이기도 하고, 네, 지금 새롭게 작업 중인 작품이 있으면 이제 그에 대한 소개를 부탁드릴 건데요. 혹시 그 전에 뭐 은희님이나 또 제가 이제 영성님께도 가능하다면 그 질문을 좀 드리고 싶어요. 작업도 함께 하셨으니까 영성님 질문 괜찮으십니까?
아, 네, 괜찮습니다.
네,
네,
감사합니다. 어쨌든 마지막 질문은 그거인 거고요.
Oh, what I'm working on
yeah,
now? Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point I can talk about it a little bit. I'm working on a film that's related to U.S. Bases, kind of the well, I wouldn't say U.S. base, maybe like the conflicts between Taiwan and China.
영성님 어떻게 이제 한국 PD로서 여기에 함께 해서 저희가 또 이렇게 인연을 했고 또 했었는데 또
네,
지금은 일본에 계신 걸로 알고 있습니다.
네, 그쵸.
또 이 영화에 참여하셨기 때문에 또, 또 바라보는 한국인으로서 일본에 사시면서 또 이런 역시 일본과 관련된 한국의 이슈를 바라보면서 약간 남다른 생각, 여러 가지 생각이 또 들 수도 있을 것 같아서요. 그냥 간단하게 영화를 하면서 기억에 남았던 뭐 한국인으로서 이 영화를 봤던 마음, 뭐 참여했던 의미 이런 걸 좀 나눠주시는 것과 최근에 이제 일본에 계시면서 느끼는 그냥 뭐 마음, 뭐 여러 이슈들에 대한 마음 이 두 가지 좀 답변해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
야, 지금 제 생각에는, 그러니까 이제 저는 이제 물론 이제 전시성노예 제도라든지 이런 부분에 있어서는 어, 제 정치적인 이제 사상이라든지 될 수 있으면 빠르게 이제 일본 정부가 반성하고 사죄를 하고 이제 그 하루빨리 이제 그 적은 수요나마 이제 피해자분들이 생존해 계실 때 이런 문제가 해결이 될 수 있으면 좋겠고 또 그런 게 이제 근본적으로 이제 한일 관계가 개선되는 데 굉장히 중요할 것이라고 생각을 하게 하고 있지만 한편으로 이제 굉장히 이게 어려운 문제라고 생각이 그 수일 안에 이제 이런 문제가 해결이 될 수 있을 거라는 이제 희망 같은 게 좀 많이 사라진 상태라고 생각합니다. 제 개인적으로는. 어, 근데 왜 이제 근본적으로 이제 왜 이런 문제가 그러면 해결이 안 될까라는 걸 생각해 보면 이 국제관계라는 게 굉장히 각 나라가 그 스스로의 이제 국가를 주변 국가들을 잠재적인 위협의 대상으로 이제 생각을 하는 그런 국제 사회의 어떤 환경적인 부분도 분명히 존재한다고 생각하거든요. 이거는 단순히 일본 정부가 굉장히 폐쇄적이고 약간 음침하고 어, 이상한 정부라서가 아니라 정부라는 어떤 그 조직 자체가 띠고 있는 어떤 특성 중에 하나가 아닐까라는 약간 좀 보편성에 비춰서 생각하는 부분이 있습니다. 저는 단순히 일본 정부 자체가 그 유별나다라는 부분이 아니라 물론 이제 유별난 부분도 있죠. 단지 이제 저희가 생각해야 될 부분은 아무래도 일본 정부가 어떻게 올바르지 않은지를 지켜보면서 한편으로는 이제 그럼 우리나라가 한국이 이제 다른 나라에 어떤 식으로 이제 음, 자국의 이익을 위해서 보수적으로 인권을 유리하면서 행동할 수 있는지를 스스로 생각해 봐야 되는 부분이 있지 않을까라는 걸 생각합니다. 그러니까 이제 일본을 이제 나무라는 거는 물론 이제 앞으로도 해야 되는 일이긴 하겠지만 이제 이 일본을 나무라는 걸 이제 국내 정치를 이용하면서 여론을 조성한다든지 이런 형태로 발전하는 부분이 굉장히 많은 것 같아서 좀 그런 부분이 좀 우려스러운 부분이 있어서 사실 좀 약간 요즘에는 이걸 약간 적극적으로 정치화시키는 부분이라든지 아니면 언론이라든지 이런 걸 좀 오히려 좀 안 보게 되는 그런 부분이 생기는 것 같습니다. 뭐이 정도만 말씀드릴게요.
너무 의미 있는 시간이었어요. 사실 너무 짧게 부탁을 드리고 길게 얘기해서 어떠셨는지 잘 모르겠습니다. 근데 되게 굉장히 의미 있는 시간이었고, 그래서 사명을 잘 해서 또 이 감독님과 우리 강명석 PD님께 이렇게 네, 주전장. 제가 생각해보니까 소개를 안 했네요. 네, 이 강명석 PD님은 네, 주전장 영화를 제작했을 때 한국 PD로 참여하셨던 분으로 제가 소개하도록 하겠습니다. 짧은 이렇게 좀 혹시인데 뭐 이런 답답함 속에서도 우리가 뭔가 한 개 이렇게 이런 거 하면 좋겠다라고 제안하실 거가 이제 영성 PD님께서는 잘 모르겠다. 약간 좀 뭔가를 이슈화하는 거를 좀 덜 하게 되는 활동들을 좀 더 하게 되는 것 같다 이러셨는데 혹시 감독님께 말씀하신 부분으로 그럼에도 불구하고 우리가 좀 평화에 좀 더 한 걸음 다가가기 위해서 이런 것들을 조금 더 하면 좋겠다 혹시 뭐 평소에 생각하셨거나 제안하고 싶은 거 혹시 있을지 궁금합니다.
그 제가 오해를 불러일으킬 만한 이야기를 한 것 같은데 저는
네.
이슈화 시키는 거를 하지 않았으면 좋겠다는 게 아니라요.
음,
정치적인
그게
이슈화를 시키는 걸 좀,
그렇죠. 그게
네, 그쵸.
역으로 이용이 돼서, 네네. 이해했다. 제가 표현을 조금 더
그런
서툴렀다
부분보다는,
보니까.
예, 그쵸. 이제 아무래도 좀, 이제, 그, 뭐라 그러지? 물론 이제 일본 사회에 이제 그런, 그, 자성을 바라는 그런 의견을 촉구하는 거는 굉장히 바람직한 일이긴 한데, 이제 자국에 대한 비판을 서로가 좀 많이 했으면 좋겠습니다. 그러니까 이제 이거는 이제 일본 시민들이랑 같이 교류를 해서 협력하면서 어떤 부분에서 이제 추궁할 부분이 있으면 추궁하는 그런 그 흐름 자체는 굉장히 바람직한 것 같은데 그리고 그게 굉장히 좀 양국의 화해나 아니면 평화를 위해서 굉장히 중요한 역할을 한다고 생각하는데 이제 좀 다른 부분에 있어서 네 그런 얘기만 죄송합니다. 그리고
Question.
이제
Uh, well, as far as peace goes, I think, it's difficult because you have major countries like the US, and also China, and, really any kind of major power that is constantly um, believing that they are the good guys, but at the same time, they are doing you know, uh, bad things in the world. And um, they never want to give up their power. So even though the US will tell, other countries that they cannot have nuclear bombs, but America has, you know, tons and tons of nuclear bombs. So it's really a power struggle in that sense. Um, but I do think that people can influence their governments, and one I think at the heart of a lot of wars and conflict is xenophobia or racism. And so I think if we can sort of understand each other more and start to realize, like, yeah, or not, sorry, not just xenophobia and racism, but also nationalism. These types of things divide people, I believe, and they make people feel like they are better or more special than other people. And I think, in a way, that's sort of a dangerous sort of mentality to have. Um, it, on a very, I guess, um, uh, in a very maybe kind of how do I say, like, uh, not so extreme way. It's like, you have the Olympics. It's maybe it's good for people in a way to, root for their countrymen and stuff like that. But taken to an extreme, when you really think that the only important people are your people, then you can do horrible things to other people, right? So I think that's the case that we see in, like, Israel and Gaza, right? So I think, the Jewish people in Israel, well, not just Jewish, but Israeli Zionist type people, they really believe that they are the chosen ones. They are special, more special. So
Right,
because
right.
they think they're more special, they can do kind of anything to Palestinians, you know, and it doesn't mean much.
아, 정말 감사합니다. 8월 14일 날 저희가 이 영화를 주전장을 상영합니다. 또 특별한 날이죠. 8월 15일 하루 전날, 광복절 하루 전날, 이 주전장 의미 있는 영화를 잘 상영하도록, 네, 오늘의 이 시간들을 잘 담아서 상영한다고 보내주시고요. 또, 앞으로 또 저희도 굉장히 또 기대하는 작품의 주제였어요. 정말 잘 만드셔서 네, 반갑게 의미 있게 만나기를 기대한다고 전해주십시오. 네, 아 너무 thank you so much.
Thank you so
너무
much.
감사합니다. 명성님 너무 감사합니다.
네.
네, 그러면
thanks,
이로써 네, 모두 네, 건강 다 제가 요즘에 이제 이렇게 말해요. 이제 통역이 될지 모르겠지만 지혜롭게 지구도 살피고 몸과 마음 잘 살피면서 여름 보내시라고 하거든요.
아, 네.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. One last thing. You know, I never thought I would say this, but maybe showing Shusenjo in Korea now is more important than it was before because of
음.
the political atmosphere.
아, 예.
너무 감사합니다.
Thank you very
네.
much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.